This Sicha is a fundamental Sicha in so many ways to how we see each other as Yidden, how we see ourselves, how we see Gula Hasidah, how we see Gulas Mitzrayim. It's a fascinating Sicha that's built on two Farbrengens of 1968 and 1972. And the Rebbe starts off the Sicha on a Medrash. The Medrash says in this week's Parsha, Vayem Hashem, Vayem Elokim, Hashem said to Moshe, I will be he who I will be. The Medrash says that refers to La'asher Eya. This is the way the Mepharshim explain what the Medrash is saying, that whoever wants me to be their king, I will, but those who opt out, l'chai, opt out. But that is as individuals. But as a general, merubim, when it's a large community, I will not allow them, I will force it, bal karcham, against their will, I will lead them b'yad chazaka. Now the word b'yad chazaka that he quotes is from Yecheskel, but we know that the word b'yad chazaka is also used for Yetzias Mitzrayim. So he seems to be implying that both the Geulas, just like Yetzias Mitzrayim, even though the Yidden weren't deserving, they nevertheless went out. So too, and the Geulah Sida also. The issue is if you compare the two Geulas, in Geulas Mitzrayim, even though Hashem did take the Merubim, he didn't take the Yechidim. There were many individuals who died in the Shleishis and Ma'afel, in the 3 days of darkness. So how do we know that the Geulah Sida will be different? So now, we know that Hashem says, and Rashi uses the words, that Hashem will gather each person, that the Geula Asida will be every single person, as the Alter Rebbe writes in Hilchas Matan Torah, so it's halacha, shekol echad rechad Yisrael, every Jew, bevadai sefer lasis tshuva, will definitely do tshuva, nobody's going to be pushed aside. Meaning all the Rishayim, even the people who don't want to go out in Galus, they will also. You talk about Shefer Gadol, everybody, as we say in Rosh Hashanah davening, even those who are oivdim nidachim, who don't want to go in Galus, will go to Gula, are coming out. Now, we've said many times, the Rebbe says, it's a famous Nekuda in the Rebbe's Torah, that when the Ben Rasha and the Haggadah Shal Pesach, when we tell him, Ilu HaYasham La Nigel, we're not there to make him feel bad, we're saying, listen, Ilu HaYasham, if you were there in Galus from Tzayim Taki, you wouldn't go out. But Gula Sida, you will make it out, because after Matan Torah, Anochi Hashem Lekecha, Hashem said, I am God, your God, individual, Lashon Yachid, and the Eibishter is each and every one of our gods, and therefore every Yid will leave Galus and go into Gula. Now, says the Rebbe like this, so now we have two Gulas. We have the Gula Mitzrayim, where the general goes out, but individuals don't, and the Gula Sida, the general do go. Now we really have to understand the general and individual. Sorry, now we have to understand what's the difference between Gulas Mitzrayim and Gula Sida. So we just said that after that Hashem said, Anechi Hashem Elekecha. Okay, fine. Says the Rebbe like this, but already before Matan Torah, in the Parsha Shmos, our Parsha, it says, Shalach is B'ni, send my son. So in other words, Hashem is referring to Yidden as B'ni B'chayr Yisrael, my firstborn son. So what accomplishes, what changes after Matan Torah, that when they're the Eibishter's child, not the Yechidim don't go out. After they do go out. Now, in Galus Mitzrayim, says the Rebbe, there were many kinds of Rishonim, including Evdi Avodah Zarah. And they made it out. As we know, Pesal Micha every month, that even when they were leaving Mitzrayim, some people brought with them ketchkas, they brought with them idols, Pesal Micha as an example. So why did the other Jews not make it out? In other words, what was the parameters of who made it out and who didn't make it out, and why by Gula Sida will it be any different? Says the Rebbe, we could understand this based on a beautiful Rugged Shaver. The Rugged Shaver explains that in the Rebbe's opinion, Rebbe says that Yom Kippur forgives Kol Averis Shabbat, whether you did tshuva, whether you didn't do tshuva. However, Rebbe says, because the Yoma, when you transgress the Isser of Yom Kippur itself, Inui, not eating, or the various other Issurim on Yom Kippur, that Yom Kippur does not forgive. What does the Rabbi Shoah explain? Because it's Yom Kippur itself that is going to be your defense attorney. But if you're offending your defense attorney, in other words, if you're causing a hole in your actual Yom Kippur, so it cannot be that the cause of wiping out your chait will be hurt by your actions, and it will still do his job. Prosecutor does not become a defense attorney. And the words of Chassidus, the Rebbe says, Yom Kippur, is revealed within each and every one of us, that our etzem, our essence of the connection between the neshama and alikus, that there's no room for chet and oven. However, when I'm sinning within the day, so that fundamental iskashrus between me and HaKadosh Baruch Hu is being affected, and therefore that iskashrus can no longer do its job, which is to give a restart and go to a level of intensity where the sins are no longer. So too, Hashem brought the Yidden out of Mitzrayim because he was our father. And it's an incredible connection that nothing can make a difference. Ben kach or ben kach bani ben, they're my children. However, those who don't want to leave, they're hurting that fundamental iskashrus that's happening between Hashem. I'm bonding with you now, and you're saying, no, you're not bonding. So it's not as if it's a pre-sin, a sin that happened in the past. You're affecting, just like the Ragachover says, the actual connection itself, and therefore it wasn't able to be affected that. So then, based on that, why is the Gula Sida any different? What's going to change when Mashiach comes? Says the Rebbe like this, that two things changed, transformed in the relationship between HaKadosh Baruch Hu and Bnei Yisrael at Matan Torah. Number one, Hashem chose us. As it says, even Allah of Apel, when we say just before Kriya Shema, we're supposed to have in those final words, we're supposed to have in mind the Sheish Schiras each day. So on the words Ubanu B'charta, we're supposed to think Yiskar Matan Torah. We should remember Matan Torah that Hashem chose us then. So that's number one. Hashem chose us. Number two, we became enslaved. Avadim la Hashem. Like the famous Chazal, the Rashi brings the beginning of Mishpatim, that the ear that heard on our Sinai, Avadai, that they're my servants, how can they be an eved to somebody else? Therefore, the ear has to be pierced. Tavdunas alikim alahars, etc. Says the Rebbe, those are interconnected, as we'll explain. The Hashem's choice in us makes us mishubadim, and it's this double relationship that transforms post-Matan Torah to pre-Matan Torah. Says the Rebbe, what happens when Hashem chooses? We can know this based on what Chassidus explains about Bechira, even by a human being. When somebody chooses something, it's much stronger than a natural desire for something else. In other words, when you want something because that's your nature, so based on how strong your nature is, then that's how strong the passion will be. But Bechira Amitis, true choice, comes from Chinas Atzmis. It comes from the depth, higher than human definition. In other words, you're accessing a part beyond your nature, and therefore it's much intensity. Says the Rebbe, why? Because when you're choosing, there is no reason to choice. There's no reason to pull in either direction. So therefore, you're choosing it from a place of freedom, and that place of Bechira Chavshis is transcends yourself. However, every other choice you're making from a place of nature. Therefore, you could sometimes see that you'll choose something that's even against your nature because it's incredible depth and of intensity. So too, Hashem chooses us from a much higher level. Yes, till then we were Hashem's children. But nevertheless, there's still a definition to that. Where a child has a unique relationship with a father, but it's still a defined relationship. But then there's Bechira, and the Bechira comes from the Etzem HaBrecha, from the essence of Hashem. And that is beyond any definition. And that accomplishes that in the other way, us to Hashem, it's a different relationship. That no longer are we just, having a relationship with Hashem, but our relationship is essence. And we're the level of Avadim. And over here, the Rebbe connects to the famous Hemshech at the second half of Tafir Samach Vav of the Rebbe Rashab, where the Rebbe Rashab goes back and forth about the difference between the relationship that we have with Hashem as an Eved or a Ben, servant or a child. And even though the Ben, the son, it's done naturally, because a child naturally wants to do what the father wants, versus a slave that maybe it's not so natural. But because it's not so natural, he's doing it from the deeper essence, from the etzem, and therefore he is only etzem ha'eved hu adam. Sorry, the essence of the slave is the master, is the HaKadosh Baruch Hu himself. And in general, because it's interesting, because in that actual mimer, it's very hard to get to final analysis. What is he saying? Is he saying the Evet's stronger, the Ben's stronger? And over here, he seems to imply that there's something more powerful in the Evet. So now we can understand the difference between Galus Mitzrayim and Galus Sida. In Galus Mitzrayim, if the people opposed the B'nai B'chayr Yisrael, the Avinu Shabashamayim, that affected the Iskashus. However, the Galus Sida It's beyond nature. It's beyond teva, and therefore nothing can stop the Yid. Because in our essence we're choosing alikus. The fact that he doesn't want to go out of ghost, that's against his bechira. Interesting. The Rebbe says in Orah 57. So why on Yom Kippur after Matan Torah does it not help? In other words, why do we say that it doesn't help in Yom Kippur? If we say the connection is essential, so why doesn't Yom Kippur forgive even if I'm offending Yom Kippur himself? Says the Rebbe, because that's only temporary, and that you were given choice to walk away from it temporary. But la'asid lavai, it's not a temporary thing; it's a fundamental essence that you cannot remove from, and therefore your essence wants to be la yidach menanich. And therefore, when Hashem reveals His ultimate etzem, the nigla kved Hashem, then every single one of us will do tshuva because it's going to activate that essence within us. Should be take of miyad mamish. L'chaim, what a beautiful sicha we learned.